Hello, I'm Eric Devin, and welcome to the Get French Football News Preview Show on today, February 9th, 2017. I'm joined this evening by Nathan Staples. We have not one but two guests, Tiago Estevao and Andres Clavijo. Thanks for joining us, gents. Before we get started with a look ahead to the weekend, though, we'll take a brief look back at Matchday 24, just to run through the results from the midweek fixtures. Ligue 1 kept its teams busy, and Bordeaux were Tuesday's big winner, thrashing Caen on the road 4-0 to move level on points with Marseille and Saint-Etienne in fifth. Monaco and PSG both won 2-1 to keep the pressure on each other, although not without controversy, as Lucas Moura appeared to be offside as he scored the extra time winner against Lille. Looking at the midweek fixtures. On Wednesday, Angers and Rennes played to a scoreless draw at the Stade Jean Bouin. Lyon thumped visiting Nancy 4-0, and Lorient came from a goal down to draw 1-1 with Toulouse at the Stade Moustoir. Metz moved to the dizzying heights of 12th with their third win in 4 matches. New signing Cheikh Diabate on the score sheet from the spot in a 2-1 win. Nice kept the pressure on the leaders with a 1-0 win over Saint-Etienne, and Marseille defeated Guingamp 2-0, while Bastia-Nantes was postponed due to a flooded pitch. So looking at these midweek fixtures, let's start with Nice versus Saint-Etienne. Les Aiglons were under real pressure with PSG and Monaco already having won, and we know that Saint, even on the road, can be a little bit tough defensively. Andres, you were over this match. Nice went back to their 4-3-3 in the absence of the suspended Malang Sarr. Nice, for me, looked really good. Belhanda on the wing looked convincing. The midfield was very fluid. Now, should Favre continue with this formation and keep Sarr on the bench?
Yeah, I think he should definitely continue with this formation. I think Sarr has not been too good over the last few games. I think his inexperience is showing. He's had an amazing season, so I think at this moment in time, what the team needs is a bit of experience. Yeah, they looked really good, as you said. I think Cyprian and Seri was very good in midfield. Belhanda was impressive. And the team looked a lot more fluent without Balotelli in the starting 11.
That's definitely another thing to consider. Is Mario more of a burden than a blessing at this point? But let's spend a moment on Saint-Etienne. They gave a debut with about half an hour to play to new signing Jorginho. How do we say that, Tiago? Tiago is back with us. He's late of Aruca.
Fine. Yeah, he's from Aruca.
So what can you tell us about this player? His talent level, what kind of systems do you work in?
So the first thing you got to know is that he's a Man City Academy graduate. He was playing for the youth Man City side. I think he played for their under 21s for like 10, 15 matches tops. And now I think he even trained a little bit with the first team when Pellegrini was still in charge. And I think he just decided to return home to Portugal to try and get some football because he wasn't going to get them in Manchester, but he's really quite good. It was interesting because it took him a little bit to adapt to professional football, I believe, because he only made his debut in November, I believe. Let me check. Yeah, he only made his debut for Aroca in early November in a match against Sporting. He came on, and from that moment on, he started starting matches, and he became a starter from that point on. The thing is that it took him a little bit to get going and to actually get a shot in the team, despite them playing like European qualifiers. So they had a ton of matches before this one, and he never really got a shot at it. So I'm assuming it takes him a little bit to adjust to a new environment. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's happening as well in France. But yeah, from that moment on, he started being a part of the team, and he was pretty good. He got his first start in late November, and he scored a goal in a 1-0 win. And then from that moment on, he just kept on starting matches. He had assists on assists on assists. He had his fourth start. He had an assist and an hat-trick, which is very tough to do. And then he even had another goal in another match. So he's a pretty productive winger. He tends to play from the right. So the Tien plays a 4-2-3-1, right?
Well, they play a lot of different systems. They did yesterday, but they often play a 4-3-3, or they've been known to play a 3-4-3, a 3-5-2. They haven't really settled on a system this season. A lot of that's been down to injuries.
Yeah, so I think it was one of the first times I watched them this season was against Nice. He didn't Jorginho didn't impress me much, but like he didn't have that much time. He tried to do a couple of dribbles, looks like he's still growing in confidence, which is pretty normal. He's a very young player as well. But yeah, here in Portugal he played in a 4-2-3-1. He tended to play from the right as a winger, but he exploits interior spaces in the pitch very well. But he tends to do it coming from the wing and not necessarily starting as a number 10, even though he ends up in that position a lot during the matches. But here he had in Aroca's 4-2-3-1, their attacking midfielder, their central attacking midfielder, if you will, tends to occupy the wings quite decently, especially on the right. Every time that Jorginho decides to take an opponent on and bring himself into the box or go into the middle. So it'll be interesting to see how he does for Saint-Etienne. I mean, Saint-Etienne's wingers are pretty good, right? Amouma and Monet Paquet are pretty decent wingers. I don't think he's just gonna get a spot in the first team. You told me that Saint-Etienne is probably in need of an attacking midfielder.
They don't
know
really
if
have
you
someone who plays as a number 10. Jordan Veretout has played there in the past, as has Henry Saive, but they haven't really been used that way. This 4-2-3-1 is something we've only been seeing maybe in the past month or so. And the idea of Aruka playing a 4-2-3-1 with a number 10 that drifts outside, I mean, I could see Hamouma taking that role. Andre, so what is your thought to that? Could Hamouma play centrally in that formation?
Yeah, I think so. I think now that he's getting on, he's getting a bit older now. He's not quite as quick as he used to be. I think it's a position that could suit him. He could provide a good goal threat from the middle and won't have to work so hard on the wings. And I think it could be a good idea for Saint-Etienne.
So we seem on board.
Yeah,
with
and Amouma always was always someone that had a very good shot on him as well, right? I always saw him as a very goal scoring winger. Even if he didn't score many goals, he was always a goal threat, right? So maybe from the middle you do something there as well. But either way, I think it's a very, very good investment from Saint-Etienne. Values weren't published around here. I don't know if you guys got hold of any values whatsoever of the transfer, because I didn't. All right, so I was just checking because here no values were published. Everything was kind of undisclosed, but still, I'm sure that it wasn't too expensive of a player. I mean, he was very impressive when he did get going for Roca, but he played like 11 matches of professional football. So like, he wasn't like, you maybe cost the million or two, I'm assuming, and that's already pretty good for Roca. It was a tiny team, was trying to make the best of their investments. So I think it's a good investment either way. Even if I think it's pretty good that he went in January as well, because it will give him a little bit of time to adapt, as I said, and he's gonna get some game time. So that they're competing for Europe, but like they didn't necessarily bring him in as a massive signing or whatever, with tons of pressure to help them succeed. He's just kind of there, and if he impresses, very well, and if not, then he'll probably go on loan. But I think that you'll have time to adapt, and then next season perhaps you could get a starting place. I can definitely see that happening after a preseason. But for now, he's going to be a decent impact sub.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Tiago. As always, Tiago writes for Who Scored in Portugal. You can find him on Twitter at Tiago. That's Tiago ESTV. Tiago Estevao. Thank you very much. As always, Tiago. We'll be sure to have you back on soon enough.
All right. Cheers.
All right. Now let's take a brief look through some of the other matches from midweek. Nathan, bringing you in here. Thank you for your patience.
It's okay.
Let's talk about Lille. They gave full debuts to the likes of Sheka and Ricardo Kishna. Anwar El-Ghazi got his second start. How did the new men fare against PSG?
A tough one, isn't it? I'm sure if you watched the match as well, it was very much a defense versus attack game. It reminded me a lot of the when Marseille played at the Parc des Princes earlier this season, where it was essentially 11 against 11 in one half of the field, and that was in Lille's final half. So you didn't see an enormous amount, especially from the two wingers, Kishner and El Ghazi, who are exciting players, but they had brief moments where they had the ball and tried to attack on the counter, but it was a little bit futile in the end. They had to wait until Depraville came on, and they were a little bit more movement in those areas and bits like that. And same with Xhaka, he's more of a creative midfielder from what I understand, and he didn't really get on the ball much. He was maybe a little bit missing in this kind of game. He tried to put himself about a bit, tried to work hard, but he didn't really create much as we might expect him to. But it was a strange game, really, and Paris Saint-Germain especially will be absolutely delighted that he came out with a win in this one. I mean, the curse of the BT Sports commentator happened again, where when Cavani scored his goal off his shoulder, he mentioned that he doesn't need many chances, which must have gave a few giggles to Ligue's favourites, because that's certainly not the case this season. And then Alphonse Areola does a horrendous mistake to allow Depraville to score the equaliser, which Lille absolutely, in all honesty, probably didn't deserve for the way they played. They were very tough defensively and held out well, but they didn't deserve a goal, really. But at that point, you think 1-1, that's probably justified. And then there's an offside goal for Lucas, which is outrageously offside, and I don't know how the referee's not spotted it. And Enyema's beside himself at the end of the game, and deservedly so. But it's going to take a while to see more from these new players from Lille. I mean, they look, and from what I've seen of them in the past, they are exciting players. I like Kishner a lot. I think El Ghazi's maybe a little bit temperamental. We'll have to see on that one. And Xhaka should have got some from Tiago to see what he thought of him when he was at Braga as well. But we're going to need a better game than this one against Paris Saint-Germain to really judge them, because it's one of those games where you're not going to find out much against a team where you're going to be defending for 90% of the game.
All right. Andres, how about Lyon's 4-0 win over Nancy? Now, Memphis Depay finally broke his duck, but Nancy were playing an experimental system with 3-5-2 without really any orthodox center backs on the pitch. Did Lyon just take advantage of the situation, or are there some actual positives to take from this match?
Yeah, it was a bit of a strange one from Nancy. I thought, given how Lyon's confidence is a bit fragile after having lost 3 games in a row, I thought they'd have a go, but they actually just sat back and sort of just played into Lyon's hands. I mean, Lyon weren't at their best, but they didn't need to be against a very experimental Nancy side. Depay, he did well when he came on for the injured Valbuena, but it's still not fully convincing from them. And there was a bit of a fallout at the end with Lacazette getting booed when he was substituted, and Aula subsequently coming out and saying that his confidence is destroyed after the boos from the fans, after some quotes in which he said that he could see himself playing for a bigger club.
All right. And finally, Nathan, reviewing matches, let's talk about Marseille versus Guingamp. Dimitri Payet also scored, another big arrival to break his duck. A deflected goal that probably gets the headlines in England, but he mentioned on Twitter that Guingamp seemed to be confused tactically. What were they doing differently, and what was going wrong?
Well, they've been looking for a mix after the last couple of weeks of indifferent results, and I think if you just simply search around for the formation last night, according to Ligue and on the television on BT Sport, they were playing a 5-3-2, which it kind of looked a little bit like. If you went on Who Scored This Evening or anything like that, they go for a 4-2-3-1, which it kind of also looked like. It's a really strange moment. If they were playing the 5-3-2 with Sanko, Bodmer and Sorbonne in the central areas, Bodmer was doing a terrible job in being a centre-back, so I don't think they were playing that. But Levesque and Martins Pereira were so far forward that you thought, well, they must be playing some side kind of hybrid formation. And then you weren't sure quite where Blau was playing. He was a bit more central when he should have maybe been a bit more out wide. Coco and Saliba were essentially on the same wing. Brion was left to sort of do the chasing while everyone else ran back. It was just, especially in that first half where really the game was sealed, even though it was only 1-0, Marseille were absolutely dominant in that first half. they just looked like they didn't know what they were doing tactically. They didn't look in midfield very comfortable. There was huge spaces in between the centre backs and the midfield. Attacking, they looked to just swarm on them. It looked very confusing. Coco wasn't quite in the game. Saliba had a couple of half-decent moments, and Blah really came into the game, especially in the second half. But they just looked like... It looked like Kwamboire was looking for an answer for this sort of slip in form that they've had. Like they maybe needed to try something experimental, something different. And it just absolutely didn't work. And Marseille, when they started playing their football with Maxime Lopez and Tovan and...
Nathan, are you there? Looks like we've momentarily lost Nathan here. Anders, were you over this match as well? Did you have a chance to see Marseille versus Guingamp? Any thoughts on the state of play there?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Marseille looked pretty good. I thought Sanson was very impressive for Marseille. Guingamp are in a little bit of a bad run after a brilliant first half of the season, and yeah, Payet was very, very, very good. I mean, he still ain't fully fit, but he looks like he's going to make a really good trident up front alongside Gomez and Talvin, and look really positive for them.
All right, we'll move on to our preview section. Hopefully we can get Nathan back in here. Just a brief update on our preview table. We award 3 points for every correct score, 1 point for every correct result. Nathan is currently in the, well, not the relegation places, but he's on 43 points, so he did pick correctly Toulouse's 4-0 win last weekend. Adam has 50, I'm on 54, and Andres, we can use your picks for Adam. I'm sure he'll be glad of the opportunity to get points when he's not here. So the way we do the picks for your benefit, Andres, is we take turns picking, and you cannot pick the same score as one that's already been said. So if you think it's 1-1, but Nathan's already said that, you'll have to pick something different. Nathan, are you back with us now?
Can you hear me?
All right. Yes, Nathan is back.
Excellent.
So let's start out looking at Bordeaux PSG, the big match tomorrow, or today if you're listening to this on Friday, which you probably are. Bordeaux have had issues with home crowds in terms of drawing attendance, but PSG are sort of reeling with injuries and form. They might be looking ahead to the Champions League. Andres, can we see an upset here for Bordeaux, and why, if so?
I think it's very possible. I mean, like you said, PSG have got a few injuries at the moment, and they'll probably be looking ahead to the Barcelona game in midweek. Bordeaux are in a bit of they're in a decent run at the moment, and I can see PSG resting a few players. While I don't think Bordeaux will win, I certainly see them possibly getting something out of the game.
All right. Let's get some score predictions then. Andres, will let you do the honors here.
I'm going to go for 1-1.
Okay, Nathan?
Curses. I'm going to go for... I don't know. It's a tough one, isn't it? Bordeaux were really good in midweek with that 4-0 win. Paris Saint-Germain have been so... I think that noise sums them up perfectly. 2-1 Paris Saint-Germain.
All right. I'll go with a 2-1 home win for Bordeaux. Now we'll move on now to Guingamp versus Lyon. Lyon will welcome back Rachid Ghazal from suspension after his dismissal from the weekend. He served that ban yesterday. Corentin Tolisso does have another match to serve, and this match is away at a team who, while they stumbled, they did beat Lyon handily in the reverse fixture earlier this season. So Nathan, a question for you, and you can expand upon this as you'd like, but assuming Valbuena's fit, he did come off injured. Who starts, Depay or Valbuena in that 4-4-2?
Le Petit Vélo starts if he's fit. I think he was excellent in that for the 30 minutes we saw him for, at least in that game in midweek. He scored a super duper goal. It's a lovely finish. And he's been Lyon's best player this season, really. I don't think we've mentioned it on the Monday podcast. Both you and Lana agreed that he's probably been their best player this season. And you don't keep a player who's in great form, who's played better than anyone else in your team out of your side, no matter who comes in. I think Memphis did play better in this game and scored a goal, and that will help his confidence, surely, moving forward and so forth. But I just think Valbuena brings a better balance to the team. Memphis is much more of a attack-minded player in the sense that he's looking to create opportunities for himself rather than others. Valbuena is much more likely to do a bit of both, really, and that complements the likes of Lacazette and Fekir, who are more like Memphis in the sense of wanting to score the goals rather than create them. It was really positive, I thought, as well, to see Nabil Fekir score as well in midweek. It was a classy little finish that just looked like it was Fekir getting back to being Fekir, which is what we want to see, of being a little bit sneaky, the lovely close ball control. We want to see him back at his full best after a couple of years with injury issues and bits like that. So let's hope that's the factor as well. And that might come into the thinking if Fekir doesn't quite come up to his fitness. I don't see Rashid Ghazal starting, even though he's back from suspension. But I just think Valbuena is a better complement and a better player on form at the moment than Memphis. But given the games they might play with Europa League, obviously there's that to think about on Thursday. Maybe Memphis starts then, but Valbuena for the weekend.
Yeah, well, Memphis is cup tied, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah. So that might play into it. That might actually play into it. If with Gangon playing so poorly, they might start Memphis instead of Valbuena, and thinking in that midweek game where Matthew can play in that one.
Yeah, I think I would have to tend to agree, factoring that in. And what about score prediction for you then, Nathan?
I think it's going to be 3-0 Leon.
All right. I'll go with a 2-1 Leon win. And Andres, for yourself, what's your score prediction?
Go 1-0 Leon.
All right. Now moving on now to two teams that might be all familiar with binary numbers in terms of their scores. That's Lille hosting Angers. Lille can feel somewhat galvanized by keeping PSG close. Even their defensive efforts were mostly productive. But Angers at home is probably another story. That's a match that Lille, under this new project, want to be winning. Andres, how damaging would it be to Les Dogs' confidence if they can't record a win here against a relegation-threatened Lescaut?
I don't think it'll be too damaging, to be honest. I mean, Lille will most definitely won't be relegated this season. They're far too good to go down, and I think the European aspirations are a bit in the balance at the moment. I really can't see them finishing in the top 6. So I think it's more of a building process at the moment, and with so many new players, I think they're going to be building for next season. So I don't think it will be the worst thing in the world if they didn't win, but I'm sure they can beat a very who at the moment can't buy a win.
All right. Let's see. I will go with a 0-0 draw here. And Andres, your score prediction?
2-1 Lille.
Okay, Nathan?
I'm going to go... Oh, it's a tough one, is it? I think 1-0 Lille. I think they need to start Depraville in this one as well. They didn't start him in midweek going for sort of a weird formation. And Colo really doesn't want to play him from the start for some reasons. And he does add that extra dimension to that front play, although I might be a little bit biased, let's say. But they just look better with him on the field. If they start him, this Angers team are a bit reeling still. They probably should have nicked it against Rennes late on with Pepe going one-on-one. But yeah, Lille 1-0.
All right, now let's move on now to Rennes, hosting Nice. Andres, you watched Rennes midweek, and they failed to win yet again. That's 8 in a row without victory in the league. Do they have a chance against a Nice side who looked sharper midweek, or were there any signs that you might take positively from this? I know we had Rich Allen on last week. He was pretty down on his club, Rennes. Did anything look better against Angers? Were there decent chances?
Well, against Angers, I think they were really poor. They didn't really create much at all. I think Gorkov went on, and like in January, I mean, the team's looking quite poor, to be honest. I mean, I can't really see where the goals are going to come from. Sio is not the most convincing of strikers. Kalulu, who's coming on loan from Lyon, who be impressed. I mean, Diakabi, he's been impressive in parts, but there's still a long way to go for him yet. And Nice, after their performance against Saint Etienne, I think they'll be on a bit of a high, and I reckon they'll be just too good for a Rennes side who's lacking in confidence at the moment.
All right, what would be your score prediction then?
1-0 Nice.
1-0 Nice. Okay, Nathan.
Yeah, I agree with Andreas. They look a bit inept in creative areas at the moment. Rennes with the frustrating Giovanni Sio leading the way, which is, a curse upon anyone, I think, at the moment. They just look poor, and they look, like I say, lacking of confidence with that run of games, and I think they're going to slowly slide down the table. So I'm going to go 3-0 Nice.
3-0 Nice. Comprehensive debate. I'm going to go. I'm going to go 2-0. I don't see Rennes scoring. We should also mention too that Ludovic Ball was sent off late on. He has been one of Rennes' best players this season. I know can be somewhat faint praise, but I think the veteran left back has really been a decent catalyst going forward, and he could be a big miss. There's not necessarily an obvious replacement for him. I mean, maybe Mehdi Zafan. I'm not really sure what approach Christian Gourcuff is going to take to cover for the former Lancement, but it's probably not going to be pretty no matter what.
Yeah, it's a tough replacement, isn't it? I think that one.
So finally, to you both, and I'll come in here as well. This it's not so much a score prediction as it is just a general question about a player. It sort of probably went unnoticed. I haven't seen much about it on Twitter and in the French press. Lassana Diarra quietly made his return against Guingamp, coming off the bench. So is he a distraction, or is his presence a good thing at this point in time as Marseille try and consolidate their position as a European contender? Nathan, we'll start with you.
It's a strange 50-50, isn't it? I think that there's no doubt that Lassana Diarra is a really good player, especially in this Marseille side. He was great last season. He was by far their best player. He's a great defensive midfielder. But then the question comes in twofold, which is he too much of a distraction with his clear one-to-way tactics early this season when they were in financial issues, when he didn't really want to be captain anymore, when he didn't want to play? That obviously factors into the fans who, if I'm right in saying, they booed him at points during the game. When did he come on? I think he didn't start. I don't think.
He came on. He came on late on. Really at the death.
Yeah, with about 20 minutes to go. But yeah, there was certainly a smattering of boos, and when we've mentioned this before as well with the midfield, Sanson played really well, and so did Lopez. But it's having that defensive midfielder next to him, and at the moment it's a battle between Vanquer and Zambo and Guisa really for that role, which I think covers enough. I don't think either of those players are that bad. Clearly, Lassana Diarra, usually on top form, is a cut above both of them really, but is he worth the distraction, especially at the Velodrome? Is he worth integrating back into the team where he might do now? Now there's money to play with. He might stay, which is probably what his plan is. But I don't know. Personally, it depends on how the bit we can't see, which is how the team are reacting to him joining back in the squad and knowing what he's done. If there's an adverse effect on the dressing room, leave him out. There's no point, because it's just going to affect what could be at least from what it looked like at the start, a successful season for Marseille in the sort of European places. If his teammates are okay, if they've bound around him, if he's willing to put the work in, he's a good player, a really good player, and someone that Marseille could use. And if he can stay around and play at the level he can, he's very, very useful to them. So it completely depends on that dressing room for me.
Andres, your thoughts on Diarra's potential return?
I'm with Nathan on that one. I think it all depends on the team and how they feel. I mean, I think Garcia said that he was going to talk to him and see what his plans are. I mean, if he's going to stay beyond the summer, then I think they should definitely reintegrate him back into the team. But if he's going to leave in the summer, I think there's really no point of putting him back in the team when you could be giving games to Zambo Anguissa and Vanquer as his replacements, and especially Zambo Anguissa, who's quite young and needs the experience. There's no point of putting Diarra back in if he's going to leave in the summer, when it will probably be his replacement when he leaves.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have to give a firmer no. I think that Diarra is a massively talented player, but I mean, let's face it, this is a very close race if we only have 5 European spots. I mean, the Coupe de France could be won by one of the top 3, but Nice are eliminated, so there will be at least 5 European spots up for grabs. And right now, there are 3 teams: Bordeaux, Saint-Etienne, and Marseille, level on 36 points. So it's a very tight race for that 5th spot in the Europa League qualification. I don't think that with the margins being as fine as they are, a rusty or potentially cranky DR is simply worth the risk. I think that Sertic has been brought in. I know he's injured. He'll come back. Vancouver is only on loan, but I think that DR should be treated similarly. Build this team around the players that are here permanently, that are here on long-term contracts, whether that's a Sertic, whether that's Sambo Anguissa, whether that's Sanson, who can even play in that midfield role as well, or maybe whether it's a new formation. We've talked potentially about a 4-2-3-1 with Cabela or Lopez playing off of a striker and Thauvin and Payet on the wings. There's a possibility of that as well. I just don't think he's frankly worth the risk at this point. Despite how he burnished his reputation last year with Marseille, getting back into the national team, etc., I just don't think his heart's in it. And this team has a lot of potential. I think that they could get a massive boost from European qualification in terms of their confidence heading into next season. Those players that do stick around, I mean, again, a lot of them are on loan, but I just don't think the inclusion of DR is worth it. I don't think he's going to be that much of an upgrade over Vancouver, who has been fairly solid, or Sambo Anguissa this season.
I'm just going to mention very quickly that I'll probably move it to a slightly firmer yes rather than a no. Then even with Sertic, forgive me, I forgot, but he's been so injured so much at Bordeaux that it sometimes is lost in the shuffle a little bit. But he's a very good player as well. But like you just mentioned, if he just about managed to nudge himself into the French international squad, that's more than any other of those players around him. And that international experience and bits like that hands it in. And if he can play at the level that he can do, and I know it's an if, but it greatly increases your chances of that European spot against the teams around him because he's an international quality player. And that makes a difference at this level, because if they can have a good shield in front of them, because that defense is so flimsy at times, that having someone like that with that experience will be a great boost if they can get him playing at the level, which is the big if. But at the same time, it's probably worth the risk where Marseille are at the moment. They could probably risk doing that kind of thing because they're not going to be weaker for it, in my opinion.
All right. That does conclude the Get French Football News preview show for this week. My thanks again for Nathan Staples. I've been Eric Devin. Thanks again to Andres Clavijo and Tiago Estevao. Be sure to tune in Monday from 8 p.m. UK and to follow us on Twitter at GFFN for the next episode and all the latest news and reviews from around Ligue 1 at the weekend. Thanks again, gents. Enjoy your weekend.